Hey guys, last couple of days I've received a couple of messages from people, asking about, have you seen the video of Michelle Jenneke winning the hurdles? Have you seen the video of Michelle Jenneke with the sexy dance thing? So my answer was yes. Yes, I've seen it. Yes, it was amazing. And people saying, what do you think? Oh, it's great, because she's Australian, I guess. That's why people are asking me. So she's Australian, I'm an Aussie, so they're sort of saying, what do you think? Isn't it great? And all that sort of stuff. And yeah, it is good. And my answer to those people is, yeah, great. Fantastic. It's really great, and she's amazing, and everything else. But I was sweating about making this video. I wasn't quite sure it was a good idea or not, because it's touchy. It's touchy, as you'll see. But I've got to be honest that my feelings about it weren't all good. When I was watching that video, my feelings about it weren't very good, and let me try to explain why. I'll just start with, I've got two sisters, so when I was growing up I had two younger sisters. I also had a circle of friends that was, half or more of them were girls, and we spent a lot of time together, and I spent a lot of time listening to them tell me what was happening in their lives. In amongst that group there was also one girl in particular who was also a very beautiful girl. I'm sort of a bit disjointed here. I'm trying to work out a way to put this so that I can get my idea across without it sounding wrong, but I think, okay, I'll start with the positive stuff. What an amazing athlete. What an amazing athlete, and what an amazing thing. I don't know much about hurdling, but I do seem to remember that if the hurdler's head stays at the same height as they cross the hurdles, it's supposed to be, a really skilled hurdler that can run and their legs lift up, but their head stays the same height and stays level across all the hurdles. And I noticed watching her that she did that, and she was just smooth as silk, and you could see the difference between her and the other runners. It was just so fluid. It was an amazing accomplishment, and obviously an extremely beautiful girl, and she's young and confident, and what an amazing person. You can just see she's an absolutely amazing person. And this video isn't a criticism of her. I think I have nothing but admiration for her. High achiever. People that achieve anything in their area, I always admire, because I think, it shows, she's put her life to get to that position. She's obviously put her life, put all the fun stuff aside, and worked really hard to get to where she's at. And she has nothing but my admiration. This is more, if it's critical of anything, it's more critical of society. And let's just have a look at, I'll try and explain why. Have a look at the front page of YouTube, and have a look at her video. Now, her behaviour at that event has made her world famous, and I'm sure it will bring in sponsorship, and it'll bring in a lot of money, and it's probably that one event, that 5 minutes on TV has probably changed her whole life, and it's made her famous forever, probably. But just have a look at the front page of YouTube and look at the titles of the video. There's a video on that's got like 13 million views, and it says something like Michelle Jenneke's sexy performance at the junior games, at the junior world competition, or whatever it is. Now, I think that's the key. That's my point, is that being sexual and being sexy should not be a bad thing. Sexuality and being sexy is part of a human nature, and particularly when you're a beautiful 19-year-old person, male or female. When you're young and good looking and healthy and fit and strong, being sexy is just a natural thing, it's just a natural thing. But look what happens when you're in a row of 8 people and you behave like that. And again, this isn't a criticism of her, this is just an observation. Let's just observe what's happened here. She's behaved as she has, and as a result, have a look how many people are talking about her performance, her athletic performance. Her years of training to get herself in that position were about her athleticism and about her, her sports and about her running. and it's not getting talked about at all. No one's talking about it. They're talking about her nails. Oh, she's got... Read the comments. And again, a girl is not responsible for the comments from other people. The people who make comments are responsible for their comments. The girl is not responsible for some comments made by some other people. But, and on YouTube, I think YouTube's a good example, because on YouTube, males, men and women, so you ladies that are watching this, guys know, if you have 2 or 3 guys together talking about women, depending on the guy, sometimes the tone of what is said is pretty animal. It can be pretty animal. Now, in mixed company, most guys tend to contain that. But if you look on YouTube in the comments, because people are anonymous, you can see what people are really thinking. Now, any beautiful girl, a video of any beautiful girl that gets put on YouTube, even if she's a very intelligent person, wearing, very well dressed, wearing a suit, and she's talking about a very intelligent topic, there's still a small percentage of guys that will totally ignore what she's talking about and comment on her breasts, or make some disgusting comment about what they want to do to her. There's always a small percentage of guys like that. That's just the deal. You know, that's irrelevant. That's really irrelevant. So there's always a couple of them. We just ignore them. But I think if you get a video of a girl on YouTube where the whole page is dominated by comments about, derogatory comments about her, or sexual comments about her, or, you know, if you look at the comments on those videos and see that a high percentage of the comments are guys focusing on her sexuality and the way they're thinking. And for those, I really made this video, I've got to tell you, I've really made this video for girls. I think most guys, I'll get mixed reactions from guys. Some guys will say, yeah, dude, you're right. You know, some guys that have sisters or friends that are girls, or, you know, daughters, will say, yeah, dude, you're right. And other guys will say, oh, you're a dickhead, you're gay, you know, and all sorts of other stuff. That's fine. Really, in my mind, the reason that what motivated me to make this video was to make it for girls, because a quarter of my subscribers, more than a quarter of my subscribers, are female. And I'm just saying this to you guys because I think a lot of girls misinterpret what guys are thinking. You know, because girls think differently to what guys do. Girls are more cerebral. Girls are more here. You know, a lot of, you know, there's that sort of a joke about guys thinking with their, you know, what's between their legs, and it's not always the case. Not all guys are like that, but a high percentage of them are. And unfortunately, all this stuff has nothing to do with women. It's not women's fault. It's not girls' fault. It's just why it is. And it's just the way it is. All this video is observations. Now I'll tell you what I observe is that a high percentage of guys are primitive when it comes to their thinking about sexuality in women. And it's just the way it is. And most guys who've thought about this or observed this will agree that they know guys that are great guys and great mates and really good to drink with, but they wouldn't want them dating their sister. And for those guys that are watching this, think about that. You know, that the guys in your life, your mates, your friends in your life, how many of them would you be happy to have dating your sister or your daughter? And I think most guys will say, oh yeah, no, because we know that there's a high percentage of guys that think of women in a fairly sort of a primitive, basic sort of way. Again, this isn't a criticism, it's just an observation. Now, you can see this illustrated on YouTube. Look at the comments on her video, on the videos showing her doing her sexy dance thing, and you can see exactly what I'm talking about. You know, oh, I'd want to do this to her, I want to do this to her, oh, that's really hot, I want to do this, her ass is amazing, her tits are amazing. Really disrespectful animal stuff, you know? And that's what that sort of behaviour brings out in guys like that. And unfortunately, again, it's not right, but it's just the way it is. Unfortunately, the world is still controlled in a majority by men. Now, there's a lot of women in powerful positions now too, of course, but everybody accepts, everybody knows that the simple fact is that men are still controlling. If you look at most of the big corporations in the world, and you look at most of the power positions, you know, in private enterprise and in government, it's still controlled majority by men. A lot of women are breaking into it, but it's still, we've got a long way to go. It's still not 50-50, is it? You know, men are still ruling the world. So if you combine these things, If you combine these things, you can see what happens to people, happens to women, happens to girls when they behave like this. Now, if Michelle Jenneke was my sister, or my friend, or my daughter, my advice to her would be to tone it down. And to those girls that are watching this, you know, being beautiful is great, you know, and being a sexy person is wonderful. And you know, to be healthy and vibrant like Michelle is, she's a wonderful example to women, you know, she really is. But I think we have to be aware of what that behaviour will bring, you know. And I've seen this, guys. I've got a whole heap of examples of this stuff going through my head. You know, this happens all the time, and this sort of stuff ruins lives. It can. Now, that behaviour of hers on that particular day has made her famous, and she will make a lot of money. There'll be sponsors contacting her manager saying, we want to sponsor her, she's amazing, because of the profile she's got now. They'll all want to give her money to wear their clothes and to go in their magazines, and she'll be getting offers. But the offers she'll be getting will be to go into Playboy and to you know, it's all going to be, a lot of it is going to be in that direction, and her performance as an athlete, which is what she's really been putting her life into, is getting ignored. You know, I didn't see any comments about what an amazing race she ran. You know, nobody was looking at that, and nobody will be looking at that. You know, she's basically pocketed herself. A Japanese woman said once, a Japanese woman, friend of a friend, said once that all women are wives or prostitutes. And when I heard her say that, I was disgusted, and I thought she has no idea, and it was a terrible comment to make, and I was really unhappy with that comment. I was really uncomfortable with that comment, that all women are wives or prostitutes, you know. And I thought that showed real lack of understanding of what people are about, and it was a terrible comment to make. But since then, I've started to realise that a lot of people think like that, and guys do too. A lot of guys do too. A lot of people, not everybody, not everybody, but there is an element of truth in this. Is that girls fit into one category or another, and I've seen this in Australia, I've seen it in Japan, I've seen it on the internet, I've seen it all different places, where there is some girls that guys look at and say, whoa, I'd like to do this to her. I'd like to do this to her. Now, this is not all guys, but this is really common. I'd like to do this to her, I'd like to do that to her, I'd like to do this to her, I'd like to do that to her. Now, they're falling into that category of what that girl referred to as a prostitute, or what I've heard other people refer to as a toy, and worse. But let's just say that in some guys' minds, girls like that are toys. You know, I'm not saying Michelle is, I'm saying that girls that fit into that category, that in a lot of guys' heads, and girls' heads too, a lot of guys' heads, that when they see a girl behaving in a certain way or dressed a certain way, or they categorize her as a toy. Now, they want to play with her for a weekend, but they don't necessarily, they wouldn't marry her. And this is really common. This is really common. Guys will often admit this to each other, that, wow, I'd like to spend a couple of days with her. They're not saying, wow, she's, and you can hear the difference in the tone. You can hear the difference in the tone. Now, I'm not saying that this is right. This is just an observation. It's just the way it is. Now, I can understand some girls saying, oh, that's not fair, that girls should be able to behave how they want, and how guys think isn't the girl's fault and everything else. Totally agree. Totally agree. But unfortunately, this is what happens. If a girl behaves in a certain way or dresses, and I've seen this all the time with clothes, you know, girls dress in short skirts and little clothes, and they go out, and the guys give them a hard time, and, you know, a girl should be able to dress how she wants and not be hassled by guys. Totally agree. But it's not the reality. The reality is, if you wear really tiny little clothes, or you behave in a really overtly sexual way, that a lot of guys will immediately put you in that toy category. You know, and a lot of guys, and again, this isn't everybody, it's all generalizations, but a lot of guys will say they want to spend a weekend or an hour or 20 minutes with a girl like that, but they wouldn't marry her. You know, and a lot of you guys are listening to this going, yeah, this is right. Probably a lot of you girls are probably aware of this as well. Now, I know there's a lot of other people who disagree. That's fine, no problem. I have no problem with that. I'm making this video because I am hoping that there'll be a couple of girls that watch this that think about this and realise it's true. You know, a classic example would be in a workplace. You know, in a workplace, you get a girl in a workplace who dresses a little bit sexually, or a little bit sort of provocatively, or behaves a little bit provocatively. She will get a lot of attention, and I've seen this again. I've seen this in Australia and in Japan. She'll get a lot of attention, and you know, and that will seem very good, but she probably won't get the promotion. You know, and again, quite understandable that girls can say, that's not fair, how come? Well, let's just reverse it for a second. Let's just reverse it. I've got some friends that like working out, you know, like going to the gym and pumping iron, and, you know, big muscle-bound guys, you know. And I've got one friend in particular who's a very big, strong guy, you know, big muscles and lots of tattoos, and, you know, just a really strong, powerful, little bit scary-looking guy, you know. Now, he is a sweet, sensitive man. He is a really good man. You can trust your life with him. He is a really good man. But because of this image that he has, just because he's a big, powerful dude with tats and, you know, earrings and, you know, long hair, and just the image is really scary. And often the way people react to him is because of that appearance. They assume that he's a dangerous guy. And, you know, they make all sorts of assumptions about him, and they don't realise that he's a sweet, sensitive, you know, lovely guy, you know, and that sucks, but it's just the way it is. And it's the same with this thing with the girls, you know. And I've seen, there was a girl I went to school with who was beautiful, absolutely beautiful. From when we were about 14, she was just gorgeous, you know, and she was a lovely girl and really smart. And we were just friends. We used to have great conversations about all sorts of stuff, and really used to think similarly about a lot of stuff. We got on really well. She was a really good friend, and she was a lovely, lovely girl. But she was gorgeous. She was absolutely gorgeous, and she was famous at our school from when we were 14 years old, 13 or 14 years old. The younger kids, the older kids, the teachers, everybody used to talk about how gorgeous she was, you know. And it was just, she was like a standard. People used to compare other women, other girls to her, and they'd say, you know, oh, I saw a girl, you know, he's got a girlfriend, she's really beautiful. And we'd say, as beautiful as Jane, not her real name, as beautiful as Jane. Oh, not as beautiful as Jane, but almost. You know, she was just stunning. So we used to compare, people would compare other girls to her, you know, and oh, you know, she was sort of like the icon. Now, that ruined her life. That ruined her life. She was a really intelligent girl, and she could have done anything. She could have done absolutely anything, you know, and it just ruined her life because people all immediately labelled her as being just this good-looking person, and that's all they thought of her as. And nobody ever said, oh wow, gee, she's really switched on, she's really smart, or wow, she's got some really good attitudes about life, or, you know, she's really kind, or all her other assets were ignored. The only thing that anybody thought about was how good looking she was. That's all they ever mentioned. That's all they ever talked about. I mean, her closest friends knew that there was more to her than that. Japanese police car, guys. So, you know, her real friends knew there was more to her than that, but the rest of the world didn't. And the way the rest of the world treated her, responding to that, it ruined her life. And she ended up never having a real, like, proper job, and her life is shit. She's in her 40s now. She's got nothing. She never got married. She never really had a decent job. She never had any money. It was not an asset to her. It was just not an asset, you know. So I guess what I'm getting at is that we've just got to be, my suggestion, if a girl is my sister or my friend and we're talking about this topic, I would say you've got to keep it within a reasonable boundary, you know. And I think that what Michelle did there has probably made her, well, it has made her world famous, but I think it was a bit over the top. It was a bit too much. I think the guys will perceive her in a certain way, and so will women. You know, a lot of women aren't comfortable with other women behaving like that either. It's too overt, it's too much. And I think that if she continues to behave like that, You know, we had a newsreader, I keep thinking of this person, Australians will know, Jana Vent, her name was, and I've got no idea if she's still on Australian TV or not. She's probably pretty old by now, but when I was a teenager, you know, she was a news anchor person on TV, and she was a really intelligent reporter. She started off as a reporter, ended up as an anchor on a current affair program, you know, and just a stunning woman. And she was one of those ladies that, I mean, first of all, she was a very famous anchor on a current affairs program, you know, with a great reputation and really good interviewer. And that was the first thing. And I think this is the other thing. I think we want to be, it's wise, and this goes for guys who pump iron or beautiful girls. We want to be, it's better to be recognized as a person first, and then our sexuality or our looks or whatever second. Because then we can have a life. Because the looks won't always be there, the muscles won't always be there, and the sexy woman won't always be there, but the person will always be there. And if the person comes first, you know, for ourselves, for the person themselves. So if Michelle's attitude, if Michelle's manager or parents or somebody says to her, look, focus on your athleticism first, focus on being a famous athlete first. And, you know, if she's still studying, I hope she's still studying. If she's still studying, focus on your career first. So if she's going to be a, you know, physiologist or a whatever sort of career she's going to pursue, focus on that first, and then have your looks and your sexuality second. Is a healthy way to look at it. And it's the same as with the bodybuilders, you know. You don't want to just be a muscle. If you're just a muscle, your life's not going to go anywhere. And when the muscles are gone, you know, when guys get older, the muscles get soft, you know, and girls are the same. You can't be beautiful forever. You know, Michelle's not going to keep those looks forever. And when she gets older, you know, she needs something to fall back on. If the whole world has just viewed you as a good looker, when you get older, it'll be gone. And that's what often happens, guys. You guys have seen this. You guys have seen this. You know, young people who, you know, you often see it with musicians and singers, you know, that are young and beautiful and singing, and they get too sexual in their performances, and they become just a sex object. And then as they get older, people lose interest in them, because, you know, they lose their looks, and then they got nothing left, because they put their looks first, and then their talent second. So when the looks fade, they got nothing left, because that's all they've become in people's minds. And again, this isn't fair, it's not fair, but it's the reality. We've got to be realistic, and this is the way the world responds to this stuff. This is the way, not everybody, but this is the way the world in general responds to this stuff. So, yeah, I would suggest just tone it down a bit. You know, don't wear that super short skirt to work. You know, it's not the right place to, or school. You know, just tone it down a little bit. There's a time and place for this stuff. You know, when Michelle Jenneke's with her friends, you know, in their own environment with her friends, and she wants to be as sexual as she likes, I would totally support her doing that. You know, I think that's fair enough. She's young and she's beautiful, and it's a great thing to do. But in that circumstance, when you're standing there with 8 other women who are all being professional, the other runners there were all being professional. They're all warming up, focusing on what they're going to do, and they're all looking professional, and you've got one girl there bouncing around being the way she was. Not everybody's impressed by that. Not everybody has a positive image about that, you know. So anyway, I'm interested in hearing the opinions of you, what you guys think about this. You know, I'm sure there'll be some girls there that will agree and disagree. And look, please don't say should, shouldn't. You know, this shouldn't be the case, this shouldn't happen, it shouldn't matter, a girl should be able to. Anytime we use the word should, we're wasting our time. Because it might be a fair comment. You know, it shouldn't matter how sexual she is. The men shouldn't make disgusting comments about what they want to do just because a woman's good looking. They shouldn't be able to, or they shouldn't make, you know, disgusting comments about her. And I agree, but they do. You know, anytime we use the word should in life, we're usually wasting our time. Should or shouldn't are usually a waste of time, because what we should and shouldn't, what people should and shouldn't do is irrelevant. It's what they do and what they don't do. It's the reality. It's what's happening. What's happening, you know? It's not saying it's good or bad or right or wrong or fair or not fair is irrelevant. It's what it is, and we have to play life by the rules that are happening. You know, what are the rules? What are the rules? The rules are, if you behave in this way, this will happen. If you behave in that way, that'll happen. That's the way it is. So anyway, if one person has benefited from this video, it was worth making. So anyway, thanks for listening, guys. More videos coming soon.